Look at that nice hair. What happened to my hair?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm growing it out.
I'm talking about Ron. He looks like a movie star.
Talking about Ron, that's all about me, isn't it? Look at these little curls.
All right. Well, we're back.
You know, Ron and I have done some singing together before.
Oh yeah.
You better clear that up there. Clean that up a little bit, Brian.
No. You can sing. You can sing. You can sing. No,
Yeah, you're a good singer. I remember that part.
Yeah, but we were good together. You know, you can carry a tune.
He's digging a hole for you, Ron.
I used to be in bands and do stuff like that. So
you know what? You sounded better now. So let's kind of.
Yeah, I'll just hold the microphone like this.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to revisit what you were just talking about. So because really we really couldn't hear it. So
hey, Christy Sy.
You can't. So you brought in the speech. What was the guy's name? The linguist.
Yeah.
I'm old, Ron. I can't remember names anymore.
Dr. Lieberman, Brown University.
No. The guy who first his son introduced him to the sounds. Scott Taylor. No, Scott.
He's trained by the Navy to transcribe languages to sounds to see if it is a language or not, to see if there's any deception, see if there's a code in it or something. By the military, just to see what's going on with other sounds. And
you're right.
He studied our sounds and said that they have a language, a complex language. It's not just a language. At least what we recorded. I'll only address what we recorded. What I recorded here around the mountains. It's that's where the experience is, and that's where Ralph Berry was taken, the investigative reporter. He's the one who fostered the studies at the University of Wyoming, showing that there was no deception, that the sounds were outside the human range. It represented an animal, a little over 8 foot tall. Then you got Dr. Vincent, Texas A&M, who says that he corroborated that, but he didn't do a full-blown study. He just did a preliminary listen to them, said it represented something about 8.5 foot tall. Well, that's compared to the human vocal tract. And you get that, but Dr. Lieberman's statement that only humans have the vocal mechanism for language.
Can you unmute yourself?
I just did.
Okay, good. Okay, so the language, go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, there you are. They got language.
Yeah.
Language.
What are they saying? Because I did interact with them 1974 after we've been dealing with it for about 3 years. And they were trying to say something to me. I was fortunate enough to pull my little cassette recorder out of the saddlebag and started recording the back and forth between me and whatever it was. There was 3 of them there, we feel. There was one up behind us. He was coined by Matt Moneymaker, BFRO, Samurai Cry. And that's when I saw him coming down through the trees. And to the other 2, an adolescent and a female, we think, down below by the creek. So anyway, that's how it got started with me, but where it's taken me is around the world: Peru, Bolivia, Nepal, Siberia. Spoke at the Darwin Museum in Moscow. I've been traveling the globe, pretty much trying to see what's going on. I went down to South America with, see Brian Forrester, and he went down with, you guys have heard of him? He's
he's famous.
Yeah. Well, he took
Nazca skulls and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I went down there for, is to see the skulls. And we visited. I was down there for about a month each time, about 3 weeks maybe. And 2 different years, 2 different scientists went with us, and we was weighing the skulls, trying to get the DNA out. Peru is hard to. The government in Peru is hard to work with. You can't take that stuff out of Peru. So he had to. He really worked hard to get some of the stuff done that has been done. And so anyway, I wanted to see if there was a crumb trail, because the sagittal crest that's often reported on Bigfoot up here, the conical head, if that has anything to do with elongated skulls from South America, because those things weren't human. They were not human. They have one single parietal where we have one on each side, one bone on each side with a sagittal suture down the middle. That's humans. These don't have that. And we think they're responsible for the megalithic structures that are down there. And how they moved them, we don't know. We can only guess. I think it's through sound vibration, really, but that's just my opinion. Who's around nowadays to tell us what they did. But you see the effects of it. You know, some of these boulders are over 100 tons up on this 13,000-foot mountain and carried for miles. You don't know how they cut them the way they did because they're like a jigsaw puzzle. They're just unique. There's no mortar in them. They just all fit together like a.
So I would guess that you would think that the pyramids were made in the same way.
Yeah, same technologies are being found all over the world, really.
Right.
Yeah, the pyramids are unique, very unique. But these things, you see this all over Peru. It's not just one little spot. You go into Cusco, go up in Ollantaytambo, you go into those different places in South America. You see the remnants of stuff that's been into Tiwanaku. And those places around Lake Titicaca, they're just enigmatic. I mean, we don't know how they did it. But something with advanced technology has been on this planet. And when you see that with your own eyes, you kind of open your brain up a little bit. You're not stuck in a paradigm of thinking that we know everything there is to know. We realize that there's so much more that we have not learned. It's what we need to learn.
Absolutely.
So that got me into it, but there is a crumb trail of a sagittal crest. That's what I was getting at. The Incas claim they warred with the Aztecs and the Mayans in Central America. Then they have stories about warring with giants in the north. That took me to the Lovelock Caves. So I've been there 4 times, and they claim they were warring with the Paiutes were with red-haired giants, and they were cannibalistic. So they drove them into the cave, the Lovelock Cave, and set fire to the outside and they killed them as they came out. Well, I'm not sure they got them all because there's still remnants of giants in the Sierra Nevada mountains. You got the minaret skulls. You've got Martindale mummies been found there. And there's quite a history of giants on this planet. And unfortunately, I think they aren't found, the remnants of them. The Smithsonian takes it away because it's going to mess up the narrative. And somebody's going to have to rewrite the history books one of these days because it's just what we've been told, what we've been taught is just not right. We're gonna.
Is there any evidence that they still exist today?
If there is, we don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think the Smithsonian, if they are the ones. Jim Vieira, who I know, and I spoke with him in 2009, I think in Georgia. And he had a whole list of newspaper clippings and all that, where these things have been seen all over and been taken away. And can't see them anymore. Excuse me. Harry?
So how big were these skulls, and how big did they actually see any skeletons of these beings, or just the skulls?
Yeah. Give me a throat spray in the bathroom. Please. Excuse me, guys. I got a little cough going on here.
That's no worries. So did they only find the skulls of these beings, or did they have skeletons?
Oh, you got the whole body.
So how big are they?
The Huaqueros, the grave robbers down there, they just take what they think the museums will buy from them. They're looking for jewelry or whatever they can find, because the royalty. Excuse me, I gotta. Bad day for COVID.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway,
Are you in quarantine, or?
Well, I have been, but not now. I mean, today's the last day, supposedly.
Oh, yeah, I just had it too.
Well, we had some company. I've been good for ever since it started. First time, I never thought it would catch up to me, but it did. This lady who stayed with us for a week visited. She had COVID. Didn't tell and so we both caught it.
Yeah, I guess we caught it at the right time because it was nothing more than a cold, not even a good cold to me.
Yeah, it's like having a flu. I mean,
I wasn't even that bad for me.
it was that for me. The first night or two in bed was pretty bad.
No, I didn't. No, I had none of that. Anyway, so I wanted to. So because we didn't hear some of the beginning. So these people at this camp, they were experiencing weird stuff, right? And what you're saying is they called you in, or they related that to you, and then you went there, right?
Well, the Johnson brothers have been habituating the camp since 1958. And this hunting camp, and that's all they were there for, is to hunt and just to go to the pristine area that it is, because it was really Warren Johnson says they think that's the closest to heaven he'll ever get. It's just that nice. It's just beautiful. There's springs, there's mountains. You're 8 miles in the wilderness, nobody else around. And you lay out on flat rock during the sunshine. And it just,
Wow.
It's like heaven. It's what he said, and it was nice. It is nice. That's where the water begins, because you're right there where the springs come out of the earth, and you got fresh water. And so they hunted there, and that's what they were doing when these things came around camp.
So they were experiencing them right from 1958, right away, the whole time.
Well, that's where they hunted every year.
Yeah. So they were interacting, or the Sasquatch people were interacting with. No,
not until 1971.
Oh, that's when they first came to light.
That's when they made their presence known. Warren thinks they got burnt on the stove drinking some hot tea, because he left the hot tea pot out there. And the stove was something we took in and reassembled on mules. It's not like carry a big stove on your back or something. We hauled those supplies in with horses and mules. I was one of the horse guys, along with Bill McDowell, who was the horse guy before I got involved. But we were all friends, and so it got me involved in it. I started recording. We all recording.
How did the first interactions go down? It was just like the vocals.
Yeah, well, you hear it wasn't really interaction with us. It was interaction between them out there. You hear them arguing. You hear them being really rowdy with their sounds. And it's on my recordings, my CDs. And it's, you don't know if they're arguing over coming in after you or what, but we're all heavily armed. We didn't go up there without weapons. It's a hunting camp too, so we all always got carried. I had either 357 Magnum or 44 Magnum, one or the other.
Did you ever feel like you were actually threatened by them though?
No, I gotta say I didn't, even though the sounds are very aggressive.
Right.
We had a security blanket around us because we're inside this shelter. We think that maybe that's going to protect us, which I'm not sure would have, but had they came in after us, we would have laid it on them. We would have shot at them.
Yeah. I think that some of their sounds sound more assertive or aggressive than what the intention is. Because, for instance, like there's a greeting growl and stuff that sounds.
I kind of think they were arguing amongst themselves about the food and taking up the food that we left out, and they were maybe arguing about that and not over us. But then it wasn't until 1974 when I finally saw one that you actually saw what was making a sound. But this is when we're outside the shelter. Normally they wouldn't interact with you until you got inside the shelter and closed the locked door. But this night, just Bill and I, my packing buddy, we were taking supplies in. We was there, just the two of us, and these things were around us. And that's when they started making their sounds while we're outside the shelter. That's when I started interacting with them, because getting kind of bold then. We realized, they're going to eat us by now. If they're going to eat us, they haven't carried us away. So we're just.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ron, I actually, Randy Briston and I, well, we've heard it a few times, but I heard them speaking for like about 10 minutes straight or whatever one day. And it was very similar to, it was like very similar to what you recorded. And it was, but the funny thing is it was so, it seems so surreal and almost like supernatural or something, that I just remember just staring up into the woods, and I had my camera and everything around my neck. and all this. And then and the next day I said, why in the heck didn't I record that? It was just like, what? But they were like, back and forth, right? And it
We
was,
trying to trick them.
what's that?
Trying to get a picture, because people say, well, if all this stuff was going on, how come we didn't get a picture? Well, it's not that easy to get a picture. We set up camera traps, a little black thread up in the tree, so nothing would trip it unless it were 6 foot tall. And they go around it. Excuse me.
Yeah, no worries. Well, yeah, they're not dumb. They know that you're trying to put.
Well, they're more than that. These things are intuitive, and I mean,
Right.
they see right through the tricks you're trying to pull. That's what got me into what answers the mysteries that's going on, because there was so much going on up there besides the vocalizations. I mean, just things you couldn't put a finger on, tricky things. One time we thought our camp was being torn apart. I mentioned this quite a bit, but we looked outside the shelter door and nothing had changed. The barrels were still there. The food was still in them. Everything was the way we left it.
Yeah.
What accounts for the sound like that? Were they hypnotizing us all, or was there something else going on? That's just one thing. Another time you think you hear a car door slam out there. It's just a way you're going to get a vehicle up there.
Yeah, you know what? That's exactly what Randy Brisson and I have experienced, and my wife and whatever. Well, all of those things. Yeah, we hear car doors slamming up in the woods. All kinds of weird mechanical, weird kind of noises. Just yeah. And you know, I like what you said about the big racket. Sounds like this big construction or something that's going right outside of your tent or whatever. That's common. Sue's experienced that too. You know,
how's Randy doing anyway?
Well, you know, we're in the final process of hopefully getting together. So she's a little happier now.
In ages. We used to stay in contact, but
yeah. But she's heard like stuff like it sounded like there were like machines and construction and stuff and all kinds of building going on outside her tent, and then there's nothing disturbed. So it's the same.
Right. Well, one time I thought there was metallic sounds. You hear metallic sounds.
Yeah.
What does that mean? One time I thought it was a tuning fork. In the distant daytime, you just can't find the source of it. You know, just up in the sky someplace.
Yeah. The tuning fork. Yeah. I remember one time my friend and I were out really in a remote area. We just heard like a bing, like a tuning fork sound that came out of nowhere. And it was funny because we weren't really nervous or scared or whatever, but it seemed to have a calming effect on us, which was kind of interesting.
Well, there's something going on with it. I think they toy with us. You know, they mess with you.
Yeah.
Just see what your reaction is going to be, or just sometimes I think the young ones, which when they're in our dimension, and here we're going to get off into this different densities and stuff, but
sure.
I think everything, if you get into quantum physics, there's more dimensions than the 3 that we live in. We live in a 3rd density environment.
Yeah.
And that's what we deal with. That's our feelings. That's our not feelings, but our touch, smell, all that stuff that Newtonian physics tells us. Everything is based on that. Well, everything is not material and physical, like Newtonian physics says. It's not physical or material. It's just there's more going on according to quantum physics, and you get this through Dr. Christopher Baer at West Texas A&M, who says everything from the atom through the cosmos, the stars, works in accordance with quantum physics. So you got that. You got these people that want to call me on the carpet. Well, quantum physics only works in the micro world. Well, that's bullshit.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it's through the universe. It's how everything really works. And you get into that, and you have to start thinking about consciousness. You have to start thinking about the attributes that we have that we're not working our way into yet, that we have not evolved into yet. These things, I think, have done that. They've evolved into it. Or there is an alien component to them, and these aliens have manipulated the DNA of primate and given them attributes that we are yet to understand how they do what they do. Can they disappear? Well, if everything is, if you look at what our visual range is, it's only 440 terahertz to 770 terahertz. That's our frequency that we see. Everything is energy, frequency, vibration, according to Tesla, according to physics. So you get into that and you realize that we only see within certain frequencies. You only smell within certain frequencies. You only hear within certain frequencies. Well, everything is a frequency. You get outside that frequency, you're not going to perceive it. Like a bear's olfactory sense is 2,100 times better than ours. Different animals have different attributes, and we can't see everything there is to see. We only see within parameters of our third dimensional environment. So when you get into the different densities that quantum physics says there exist, you have to open your mind up a little bit, because things are going on. I mean, aliens are here. Anyone going to deny that is got their head in the sand. They've been here before. I've seen the technology, advanced technology in South America and all over is showing.
And there's an ET Sasquatch connection. It's not big, but it's definitely there. It's been in books, people written about
about 20% of Sasquatch reports have a UFO attached to them.
Yeah.
And that's in Huffington Post 2012. 1888, a rancher with some Native Americans saw this small moon come down from the sky, and 3 crazy bears jumped out of it. What are they saying there? Anyway, yeah, and I saw a UFO up there at our camp one time when this stuff was going on. Big blue ball comes down from the sky, controlled, and
Yeah.
what do you do with that? You don't know what to do with it.
I've had a Sasquatch experience and a UFO at the same time, so there is some kind of connection between them.
I think so.
You got to stretch your mind to be able to fit all that in it. And once you stretch your mind, it doesn't go back.
Yeah. So Ron, one of the big lessons in whatever that I've had from the Sasquatch is time. Like, time is not linear for them. Do you have any experiences with that? Like, literally, happened so many times that it's undeniable, where I know for a fact that they know what I'm going to think or do before I even do it. And sometimes it's years prior. I'll come to a conclusion about something, and then I'll look back at my photographs and stuff and say, damn it, they knew. Undeniable.
Time, yeah, as you know, time only exists for our third dimensional density.
Right.
Time does not exist when you get out into space and get away from the gravitational pull of things. I think I wrote about this in my book, where I spent a year traveling at the speed of light, or just under the speed of light in space, and 227 years will pass on Earth. Come back. So things are different, and time is different. It's not linear like we think. We think everything today, we're creating our environment day after day as we go with our consciousness. It's hard to get your head around some of that stuff, but it's all there, and it's a matter of dealing with it, understanding, comprehending it, and working with it, because time as we perceive it doesn't exist. Even though we got to go through this right now, like you do, like we all do. We're here, all of us are here for the experience, and just to learn things from our experiences. And if you can learn to create your response to those experiences as a positive nature, you're going to raise your personal vibrational frequency, so you can transcend into another dimension someday. According to physics, energy can't die, and that's what we're all made of, is energy. It can only change forms. So if you're a religious person, when you die, you're going to go to heaven. Well, if you're a physicist, you're going to change into another dimension. And I think it's all about vibrational frequency. So we're here to learn. If you don't learn, you're going to have to repeat it until you do learn it somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's how we're going to graduate into a higher density.
So have you had any personal experiences with time where you knew that they were manipulating time? And
no, not personally. No, I haven't. People have asked me that before, but I can't really put a finger on that. There may have been times, but went to sleep or what? Don't know.
Yeah.
But,
Well, exactly. Right.
Men are kind of analytical. A lot of us are, and I'm very analytical. I try to figure things out in a natural way first before I put assessments.
Yeah, I think if you're not even, with the wonderful and magical supernatural experiences that we're having, if you've still got to show discernment. you still got to keep that practical side, because otherwise you
Oh,
can
yeah.
just go, like, way off the deep edge. You still
Yeah,
have,
you can't make something out of nothing. And so many people do. You know, they're so hungry for an experience, so hungry for something to happen. They're as soon as they hear a strange sound, it's a Sasquatch. You know, as soon as they see something they can't explain or don't explain, they put one. Guys, I'm having a problem with my throat this morning.
that's okay.
Some water.
Well, no, it's not really okay.
Well, but we can hear you at least. So
There you go. Make me feel
that's
better.
positive. We're not breaking up. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what you're
So,
talking,
some
yeah,
kind of colloidal silver. I don't know if it really works, but
septic stuff here.
yeah, I don't know if this really works, but it tastes nice. I mean, it kind of has like this fresh feeling thing.
yeah. But what you were talking about basically, and what I've experienced is, you know, the linear understanding of our time, they don't have those constraints. So that's
Well, another thing, if they are interdimensional, which I tend to think some of them are, can you still hear me?
yeah, absolutely.
If they are interdimensional, like some of them I think probably are, when they step out of our three-dimensional parameters into their fifth dimensional environment, which I think that's where they're from, for the most part, time won't exist like they do. So they just won't be the same. They don't age the same, in other words.
Yeah.
You want to hear two interesting data points? There's actually data on this that it's a scientific academic study data and published that you know, they did this friend of mine, Ray Hernandez, did this big worldwide survey of people who've been on craft and been abducted and all that kind of stuff. And it's a huge survey. So it was 6,000 people by the end, and it was 600 questions. So it was 3 phases. And but anyway, one of the questions, I think, when phase 2 was, you know, if you're on the ship, what type of beings did you see? And then, so that this went out to all those people, and they wrote down the different kinds of beings that they saw. So then they actually put it on a graph, and the first one was the light beings. The second was basically human-looking beings, and then the third one was something like the tall grays and the medium grays, and then when there's some bug people. But the sixth most seen type of a being on a spacecraft was a Sasquatch type being, a large hairy type being and a small hairy type being. That's a big number.
Yeah.
And then there's this lady, Kathleen Martin. What was it? I think it's not Kathleen Martin. It's what's it? I thought it was Kathleen Martin. It's not Kathleen Martin. It's anyway. There's a lady who she was like you. She went down to South America. She does UFOs and stuff, but she went down to South America, and her contacts down there said over 50% of the people report being taken on a craft in South America. So it was a Sasquatch craft and a Sasquatch crew. Now, that's pretty astounding, because that would mean just like us, we have people who are astronauts, and we have people who are farmers and hunters, and the Sasquatch have people who are astronauts. Or there's a class of, you know, space Sasquatch, and then there's Earth Sasquatch. You know, so that's interesting data, but that's actually
so many different types of aliens, I think, exist in this universe,
and so many look like us.
This planet for eons. Excuse me, and it's just they've evolved, but I think been manipulating the genome of different species on this planet. My theory is that maybe they're acclimating their species to this planet. Apologies, guys, but get this bug in my throat.
No worries, no worries. So I also think that they can present themselves to you in a form that you feel comfortable with. You know.
Say that again, Brian.
Well, if some of these entities or whatever that are reaching out to us or whatever or stuff, they can present themselves in a form or whatever that you feel comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And also, you know, what you were talking about with the machinery and whatever outside of your your tent or the big racket or whatever. I also think that they can give us any audible, visual, or sensory kind of experience that we want, or that they want us to experience.
Yeah, I think yeah. Well, we've experienced that, so yes. I mean, I have no doubts that they can
Absolutely, because
make any kind of sound they want to make.
Yeah, and the thing is that you can have like 4 people walking along a forest path or whatever, and 2 of them will experience this kind of stuff, and it's just like dramatic, like, and the other 2 won't experience anything. I don't know if it's the vibration, their energy vibration, whatever, they're open to it. I'm not sure exactly what, but
I think
you're like,
they can match your frequency.
Right. You can hear like a mountain crumbling down or whatever, or like an avalanche, and then 2 other people won't hear anything. And it's that dramatic. So.
Kind of like I call that quantum entanglement. They're entangling you. They can work with you. A lot of times it's all up to your vibration where you're at. And
yeah.
That's why a lot of this happens at night when your vibrational frequency kind of relaxes. You get in that alpha, the theta state of awareness, and things can happen. I think that's when your vibrational frequency sinks down a little bit, like the Earth does. Earth actually changes its vibrational frequency too. Animals do the same thing. I think Bigfoot can communicate easier during the evening time, so it's when vibrations are calm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Randy. Well, we've had so many experiences, but I'll give you a real quick one that talks about like zapping and energy or whatever. I just want to know if you can, connect with us or whatever, or if it rings true or stuff. But anyway, when Randy Bresson, right?
Yeah.
You know the name, yeah. So we're sitting around and we can feel the Sasquatch all around us. Actually, I got this early on in my experiences. I used to get this third eye kind of thing. I could feel it tingling or whatever, and then inevitably there'd be a little rock come out, like a highway here, or some kind of introduction after the energy. And one time we were there and we felt an energy wave. It was incredible. We felt this energy wave come at us like whoosh, and we could hear it in our heads like whoosh, like a big, and it went right inside our bodies, rattled around, and shot right upside upside the top of our heads. And it was like, did you feel that? Like,
I've never had that happen, but I've been frozen. All right, but this is my book, like a force field.
yes.
Warren Johnson and I was walking up towards where this Bigfoot had to be behind this huge tree.
Yeah.
We just got close to it and got frozen. Couldn't go forward. We could only go backwards. So we went back in and started out up again. It's either infrasound. I think it's probably infrasound. They could work with infrasound, I'm pretty sure.
So you were actually frozen in place? You couldn't move?
Right. Couldn't go forward, go backwards.
Okay. Well, we've had we've had that kind of stuff, but generally with us, it was more like you were walking through a force field, like you could hardly move. It was like something's holding you back. And, we figured it was
nothing surprises me in this field of Bigfootology, actually.
But you know what? My feeling is that you could take all the paranormal, icing on the cake and set it to one side, and still the Sasquatch are phenomenal people. They're contacting so many people in just regular face-to-face or throwing rocks or making noises. They're contacting so many people and they're changing so many people's lives. If you just set aside all that psychic stuff, there's still a phenomena that is worthy of study and really like, what's going on here? I mean, you're talking now, it's close. I'm sure it's close to like 1 million interactions, for across from like you said, from the 1950s till now. And it's been going on in every state. And, they're doing something, and they're doing something in an orchestrated or kind of like they're conspiring to connect and be known while also being hidden. So that just that stuff alone is just phenomenal.
Yeah. You have any idea what's your theory on that? Why do you think they're being exposing themselves more now than ever?
I think they need us. I think they need us to not kill them. And because that's an insurance policy that, like, for one example is the Sasquatch have told some of the Mindspeak people that there's six different agencies that actively hunt the Sasquatch. There's agencies in every state to take care of mishaps, like if somebody kills a Sasquatch or a Sasquatch kills somebody, there's agencies to take care of that. But there's black ops and intelligent agencies that are out there trying to capture them, and there are agencies that are actually can take the highest tech gear and they can clean out a whole mountain of Sasquatch in an afternoon. We're talking 40 or 50 members of a Sasquatch clan set over a whole range of a mountain, and so they see this stuff going on. And one of the things they need us to do, they need us to have a conscious recognition of them, that they're out there. I think they need us. We need them too, because we're seeing a being that doesn't have any government, doesn't have any money, and it's been thriving on this planet as long as we have. So we need them and they need us, but for sure, I think they need us more than for that kind of security. Because if the United States find out right now there was a war on Sasquatch, a covert black ops war on Sasquatch, everybody would go nuts. Because you leave them alone. I think that's what's going on. I have no idea if that's the absolute truth, but I have heard from the Sasquatch people that they are under a lot of pressure.
I have a different take on that. Did you want my take? Did you were asking why are they reaching out at this time?
Now, what's your take?
Well, I had an epiphany, like a spiritual kind of awakening kind of thing with them. And I think that they are here to raise our consciousness, because I think people are talking about the conscious shift, that we're going through, like the new agey kind of concept of we're transcending. They are here to actually help us affect that, because my experience is that it was like, I knew it was the answer because I just knew what it did to me, So I think that they are here to help us raise our consciousness, because when we raise our consciousness, our problems are going to go away, because the negativity, the hatred, the judgment, the fear, the division, all that stuff cannot exist in that consciousness. And that's what I think that they're doing.
I agree with you. Yeah. I don't think they're endangered. Really, I don't know if anybody's brought any bodies in or anything like that.
Well, my guys aren't. They said they're not worried about it.
Well, I think they're here to help us raise our consciousness.
100%. That's my whole experience.
To be aware. They don't need our protection, I don't think. We need their protection.
Well,
we need help. The human race needs help.
I'm not going to discredit what Bean said, because I hear a lot of people talk about that, and it's possible. But I know that my guys are not concerned about it, and probably, but the family I connect with aren't concerned about it. But they are definitely here to raise our consciousness. And when you've been in that state of consciousness, you just know that that's the answer. It was almost like, I was thinking about it the other day. It's very similar to what people say when they have a near-death experience, that love, that connection, the all one, no questions, no answers. That's what I experienced. And I've been listening to some NDEs, near-death experiences broadcasts that Sue's been sharing with me. And it's very, very similar. So they're showing us something, our potential, where we want to be, where we're headed, and the answer to the transition of the conscious shift.
Higher vibration.
Yeah, absolutely. Higher vibration.
The same can be said for the ET people. The people who are in contact for their whole life with the ET people, their consciousness goes up, their spirituality goes up, their respect for Mother Nature goes up, their kindness and compassion goes up. And the same kind of things are happening for the people who are friends and have been friends with the Sasquatch people for generations, is that same kind of an effect of, like you said, higher vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what we got ahead. That's what we got to be. We got to reach that. We got to stop killing and hurting people.
Yeah.
We learn how to react to all our experiences with love and compassion and stop hurting someone just because we disagree with her or something. That's just not going to help us at all. What helps us is to respond to these issues with all our experiences. That's what life's all about, is experiences.
Yeah. Because all these negativity things or whatever that are keeping us in our quagmire, or that the human race is in right now, are all lower vibrational things.
Very much so.
Hate, fear, jealousy, judgment, lie, division, all this stuff is lower vibrational stuff. So when we raise our consciousness, you realize that stuff can happen, can exist, and that's the answer. I don't even doubt it. No, seriously.
I agree with you.
There's no question about it.
So that's where we got to go. That's what I think we're on the edge right now. So, consciousness has got to be raised. We got to learn, and that's what I think we're going to be inundated with UFOs, with aliens. Actually, going to be inundated with them shortly, because there's too many of them going on, too much stuff going on. Now we finally find out there wasn't a weather balloon in 1947. There really were aliens here. So now we can talk about it freely. They're coming. We got a Space Force now. I mean,
we got 4 of them.
Well, it's all about. I just don't trust our government, to be honest with you.
No. And can I say one thing? And the reason why some people have experiences and some people don't, or whatever, even some longtime investigators never get any of that kind of woo stuff, or any of the answers, or the stuff that they're really trying to teach is because they're not open to it. And so that's why the Sasquatch people are reaching out to people like you, myself, Mr. Beans, who are open to this and that they can teach and that they can guide or whatever, because they're not interested in entertaining us or whatever. That's what they're here for, is to raise our consciousness. If you're not going to be open to it, or you're not on that vibration, or whatever, that's why you don't have the experiences that we have.
Yeah, very good. I agree with you.
And the paranormal plays into that, because if you like you say, if you get into the abduction experience, right, the contact experience, well, those human beings are going through walls. They're going through the ceiling. You know what I mean? And then they come back down. They go, I remember coming through the wall. That they're being we're being taught that this isn't the nuts and bolts 3D reality isn't the end of the story. That's just one chapter. People are going in and out of these realms, and they're taking their body with them, and they're getting this information and upgrades, and all kinds of stuff goes on. So
and fun. This is a good time to be living, you guys, by the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like some people look at it as oh, I'm fear or whatever. Well, that's actually another thing that the Sasquatch have done for me, is that fear is a big controller. They've kind of taken that away. Once you realize you're an eternal being,
yes,
you're getting energy too, Ron. This is kind of weird. I don't want to pull this stuff off on you, but when I talk truth about them, I get lit up with this yes, that's right. And I'm getting that right now. But
I tell people when I go through the different things, make contact with them and what to do, the biggest thing is control your only enemy. That's fear.
Yeah.
You got to control your fear, because that's what we have. And if you're not careful, you'll have to be afraid. You don't need to be afraid. Know who you are as a human being, because we're made in the image of these light beings. In my opinion.
We are a light being. There's some people like A.R. Borden, PhD, and John Stewart Reed. They just talk about how we're made out of these. We have light going through our veins and through our body and through our blood, and there's light going everywhere. It's like the neurons in our head is actually fired with light. So we're just like that far away from just turning into a ball of light.
Yeah, well, it's coming. I think we got more to evolve into. We're learning fast, though, because we're in an age of enlightenment. I think that's what the 2012 Mayan calendar was all about. is an age of enlightenment, and we're all learning more now at an exponential rate of speed. And it's just a good time to be living.
Yes, I agree with you. And that was the point that I wanted to piggyback on, is that, yes, it is, because if you don't have any fear and you realize what's going on, it is really exciting. These are like transcendental times for humanity. It's extremely exciting to be here, and it's extremely exciting and an honor to be kind of part of that, right? Like, you're doing your part, and it is exciting. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, the ET people have flat out said they want to land here, and it's been going on since the 1950s, where they said we want to make relations between. There's something like 2,000 different star systems, different people that come and visit Earth, but they don't really stop over. They want to make Earth as an outpost, an intergalactic place, and then that means they want to have manufacturing here, repair stations. They want to have universities here. They want to have hospitalization kind of stuff going on here, manufacturing. So they want to be here. But one of the things, I'm going to get to the Sasquatch. One of the things they don't want is to try to set up a base here and then have people start shooting at them, calling them aliens and weird stuff. So for them, their thermometer is Sasquatch. The thermometer is Sasquatch. If we can live alongside Sasquatch, and everybody kind of gets used to the idea of living with a non-human intelligent being living in the woods next to their house, if we can get used to that, then they can, because then we can. It's a good chance that the ETs can be here with not being molested or being prejudiced or whatever.
And it's interesting how our government seems to want to have a space force for national security. Well, they're not here to hurt us. If these things wanted to hurt us, they could have already done that. I mean, my gosh.
These guys got the technology to destroy worlds. They can actually turn worlds to dust.
Yeah.
I can see I can see why the government wouldn't like Sasquatch, though, because they're trying to wake us up, and that's the last thing that they want. Because if we ever wake up, we can't be controlled. So that's something they definitely don't want. So, do you feel that you were chosen by the Sasquatch people, Ron? I feel you were, but I mean,
well, evidently I was, because something happened that doesn't happen to just everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. How you
and you didn't back out. To me, the miracle is you didn't back out. You didn't like get into that 3 or 4 years and go, this is crazy. I'm not, but you didn't do that. You kind of just stuck it out and opened up and opened the door.
Happened, it's a passion of mine now, and it didn't just happen to me. It happened to all of us up there. And what really puzzles me, some of these, I don't want to mention any names, but they don't want to talk to the other guys who were involved. Well, some of them are still alive. They've never been interviewed. Of course, they don't want to be. They just soon stay back and let me handle it all. But it's not just me that it happened to up there. There was 5 of us. It was 6 until this.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
back anymore.
If you were one of those other guys, if you're one of those other guys, they wouldn't. That's why they're working with you specifically, because you are willing to talk about it. And,
Well, we'll see where it takes us. I speak about this in these conferences all the time, and I'm going to be in Medline Falls, by the way, here next month, June, up there, southeast Washington. You know where that is?
Yeah, Tom Cantrell's going there.
Is he? Oh.
I think he is, and I think Sue might be going, but she also.
I'm speaking up there along with David Pilates and the She Squatchers. I'm not sure who else might be around, but it's a big deal. I've never been there, but I've heard it's beautiful. It'd be fun to go.
So you and I,
on the West Coast.
I'm really happy to hear you and I are basically on the same page, Ron, about what you think they're doing, whatever. How many of our, without naming names, but how many of our compatriots are at that understanding or like?
More than you one think, because when I get my program, I have so many people come to me. That's just right where I was thinking, you know. Because I finally get into it, and I do it in my PowerPoint program. I do it with a procedure so that I quote Tesla, I quote Einstein, I quote these guys who brought me to this level, and who have credentials behind them. Because you get into quantum physics just a little over 100 years old, where Newtonian physics is 1687, you know, and you find out that everything is not measurable, predictable, everything's not physical material. Things go on and on through quantum mechanics. And when people understand how that works, they can follow it, and they hook into it, and that answers so many questions for them, and they just love it because they've had these experiences, and more people are having them, out of the box experiences. And I relate that to the parameters that these classical scientists are in, and you know who I'm talking about. They're in a fixed box of thinking. They have to be within this box of their discipline.
Consciousness is in the brain. Well, if that's not turning out to be true, you know, the consciousness is only in the brain. Nah, it sits kind of out here too.
Consciousness is not in the brain. It exists outside the brain.
Yeah,
that's right.
And, where was all learning? Where is all new learning and whatever experience outside of your box of beliefs, right? If you're not willing to step outside of that box of beliefs, you're not going to, what are you going to learn? Like that
you can't be confined to a box like that. I can't anyway.
Exactly.
If you don't have an open mind, it's like a parachute, you know, it's only going to work if it opens. Well, your mind better be the same way. You crash. And so many of these researchers, even, they won't get outside their parameters of, they have to set up these trail cams and get a picture of this thing out there. Well, I'm not saying anything against trail cam. I know Peter Byrne, he still sets out trail cams. He's 95 years old. I talked to him again the other day, and you know, he's fixed. And I love the man, don't get me wrong, very colorful person, but he's fixed with thinking it have to be an animal out there in the woods, and sooner or later you're gonna capture one and get some blood samples or something and get it identified. Well, it's not quite that easy. And these things, they have a sensitivity, I think, and intuitiveness about electrical batteries and things like that, because our batteries will go dead up there quite often. And ask Scott Nelson about that. He went up there prepared to tape 24 hours a day for a whole week, and his batteries just turn up dead, you know.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of reports around these things when they're cutting trees. Well, that sounds like it's off, but it's not, because trees, it takes 6 to 8 trees per year per person to survive on this earth. And here we are clear cutting trees, and it's taken the life force of our air out. And I hear people reporting for years and years. I've heard people reporting how they see these things when they're cutting trees or when they're clear cutting. And I got a call from Nia Bay up there one time. The guy says, "Hey, man, come up here. These things are screaming again out here in the backwoods." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh, we're just cutting some timber down to clear some more land." And and you hear this more and more often, and you want to. Finally, I put it together. They don't like us cutting trees because if they can transfer, here's it's a little whoopie doopie here, so be careful.
Oh, no, we're fine. We're the whoopie doopie boys.
If they can change their mass into energy, which, by the way, is absolutely possible. That was a Nobel Prize to Paul Dirac in 1933 for the equation that said mass can turn into energy. All right, he got that. There was established finally in 2012 by CERN over in Switzerland. Mass can turn into energy, and it's energy equals mass times light squared. I mean, it's E equals, it's Einstein's equation. Mass and energy are interchangeable. The fact. Okay, then you got these people saying, "Well, nothing can just disappear." Well, yes, they can. They can go out of your perception. If they can change their mass into energy only, their trackways would stop too. Now, wouldn't that answer a lot of questions? Because the trackways, I had to have it to me. My daughter had a sighting on the trackway, and I mean, it was really deep, and all of a sudden it just stopped. Yeah. And I thought, well, okay, where to go? To go jump in a tree, jump in a boulder, jump in a bush, where to go? Couldn't find out where it went. It just stopped. Yeah. If they can change their matter into energy, they can also change into, and you hear this a lot too, not a lot, but you hear it, native lore all the way back. They live in two worlds. They actually can energize in trees. And you heard other researchers say this. I know a couple of them, and you know them too, say they live in trees or they've seen them go in and out of trees. Well, there's something going on with trees and energy. Trees have energy. They supply this earth with our oxygen. And these things have a problem with us cutting trees. When I was up in Portlock last year, that discovery filming thing they did, when they helicoptered me into this place, well, I flew over it quite a bit before I landed. And they want to know what it takes to rehabilitate this fishing village they had years ago, because it got abandoned 70 years ago when these Bigfoot creatures supposedly was mangling people and killing people. The whole village got abandoned. Well, when I flew over, I see where they were over timbering it, they were overfishing it, they were just not appreciating the land. And my suggestion then was just respect the land. Don't overdo it. Just you can get along with these things. They're not going to. I guarantee you, though, if there's a 10 or 12 foot tall Bigfoot-looking creature comes out of the woods screaming at you for cutting a tree down, you're probably going to shoot at it. And that's going to piss them off, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what was going on. And, anyway, I just
There's a lot of stories that like that.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of stuff like Sue and I have experienced many times. Have you ever had them put pictures on your camera or take pictures off your camera? Or
I haven't.
But it makes sense, right?
Well, no, but it does. You get into quantum physics, it can make all kinds of sense. But nothing in quantum physics really makes sense.
I could go into a bunch of detail, but I don't want to do that. But basically, because it's your show. But basically, we've taken pictures of stuff. Like Sue and I took pictures of this raven feather we got gifted one time, and there's a big story behind it. A bunch of really woo kind of stuff happened to it. But anyway, we took pictures of the raven feather that they left us at a camp we were at, and we took about 5 pictures, and we checked our camera, and the pictures were all removed. Every other picture was there, but they took those 5 off for whatever reason, something sensitive or just a lesson or something like that.
Well, a lot of things happen that that you can't explain through classical mechanics. You have to get into quantum mechanics. That's the only thing that can explain it, and that doesn't really explain it. Just tells you, okay, something else happened besides classical means.
Yeah. So what do you think? Because you're into the, and I don't even know if this I imagine it would cover it, but with your quantum physics. So I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, but you've heard of it. I've experienced it. Where they've appeared out of thin air, or you're looking straight ahead and all of a sudden they're just like there's nothing, and then they're there, kind of thing. What's the explanation in quantum physics for that? Or am I, or maybe I'm not on the right action there.
Explain that one more time to me.
Well, how you can like be walking down a forest path, all of a sudden they materialize out of thin air, like from nothing to just they're not there and then they're there.
Yeah, it's their vibrational frequency. They can change their vibrational frequency. They can lower it down out of the 5th dimension. That's why some people see ghosts and see things in the 4th dimension of time, right? Because of the vibrational frequency just hasn't reached the 5th level. They can drop it down, and they can drop down to 3rd level density. Then they have to live by our rules when they're in a 3rd dimensional environment. They can be shot, they poop, they procreate, they eat, they do everything we do. They could be hurt. However, if they can change their frequency out of this vibration, out of this 3rd density, then you might see them pixelating through the 4th dimension of time, going into where I think they reside mostly in the 5th dimension. And I shouldn't say they, because they're not all the same, Ryan. They're just not. I think because of the multitude of aliens that have been on this planet, have manipulated the DNA of different primates and different species on this planet. There's all kinds of entities on this planet that's been manipulated. There's a hybridization program going on, in my opinion, and there's all kinds of hybrids out there, and they're all from DNA manipulation into the genome of different species. My opinion is they're doing that to acclimate their species to this climate. And it's working.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of different aliens, and a lot of different ones have been on this planet and done different things. And when you've been around the planet like I have and seen all the strange stuff that I've seen, you can't deny it. I mean, something's gone on with a higher technology than what we have today.
Yeah. Somebody asked, Carol Davidson is saying, elaborate on the types of hairy bipedals. So I guess she's referring to what you said, that they're not all the same.
Yeah, well, it's like the Yeti, like the Urine, the different ones, the wild man of Siberia. Those things are I don't think they're the same. I think the different aliens have made the DNA into the troglodyte change so that it can be adapted to, like the high country, the Himalayas, or the Urine in China. Yeah, they're just different types of these things.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I think personally, the ones that I'm dealing with, I think they're pure, because they're just such spiritual, loving teacher kind of things or whatever. But
Could be.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, these guys. But so you think some of them are like actually manipulated by people or whatever, or changed, or experiments and stuff.
Well, they've been manipulated. The species has been manipulated by aliens.
Yeah,
aliens have been here. They're here now. I think a lot of them, they create their own environment under the ocean and the waters. There's a lot going on. If we only knew all the things you can't see that's actually around us now, but we can't see it because we're enclosed in a third density environment.
Yeah.
And you get out of that, and sometimes you'll hear things at night or see things at night that you don't see because the temperature changes, your vibration frequency changes. A lot happens that we're becoming more and more aware of. We lose. There's Frank. I thought we lost you.
Taking care of business.
Yeah. So what you're saying, and which makes sense, and which I believe too, explains why, like, and even the fact that there are people would explain, like, different people react to things in different ways. So people have the different ways that they will react to an action, like somebody coming into their territory or stuff. But I think some of them are not nearly as evolved as others. Some of them are.
You hit on that right there. I think a lot of them, because of the eons they've been here on this planet, they've diluted down by inbreeding with indigenous people, and I think that's what makes them some of them more human-like than others. What we were dealing with up there is different than what a lot of people say they're hearing and dealing with. It's not like you're dealing with something like we were dealing with, something that is pure, or I say pure, the one that hasn't been diluted down as much, like the Patterson film, the Patty in Bluff Creek. Well, her tracks are very human-like if you looked at them. Our tracks were splayed. They're very different. And I mean, they're the same track we found year after year up there, and all of them were the same. We found a little 9-inch track in the snow with an 18-inch track too. And you don't fake those things. No one's faking it up there. I mean, so there's something different about the ones we were dealing with. They have language. I don't know if all these things have language, so I tell people, just keep your guard up. You don't know what their intentions are. You don't know, because I think some of them can be malicious, and that depends on what created them and their agenda behind it.
And I don't think all of them. I don't think all of them can go invisible, and I don't think all of them can mind speak. You really don't know, because if you look at the American,
I agree with you, Frank.
If you look at the American Indians, they had human beings, and there's still to this day human beings who can go invisible. They can shift in and out, but it's only like 1 or 2 of them in a big community. So, they may be like us in that regards too. Although I think they are on a notch or 2 higher on the spiritual path than we are.
I think you're right. Yeah. And I don't think they can all talk. I don't think they can all necessarily different, and then may not all be interdimensional. In fact, I'm quite sure they're probably not.
Yeah.
Some of them are just relic hominids that have evolved up, but they've been interbreeding and crossbreeding with indigenous people, and they've just become more and more like us. They still have some recessive attributes in there that I think we got to consider. We have those. I don't think we've been shortchanged at all. We are light beings, very special beings on this planet, and we have to learn how to accept that and get evolved into it, become the oneness that we all are, because we're all one consciousness, and we have to stop thinking of ourselves as separate.
Absolutely, 100%. I so agree with that.
Well,
So
we got remote viewing coming on really strong, right? Everybody knows what remote viewing is. There's people making money on it. People are using remote viewing for Bitcoin, and they're using it for archaeology. They're using it for history. The CIA and all the three-letter guys, they all use remote viewing. And but nobody really stops and thinks about what that actually means. It means that sitting here watching this show, you're also connected to almost every point of time and every location, basically in this solar system, but it could also be in other solar systems too. We have the ability to tune in. Our DNA is actually antennas, sending and receiving antennas. We have the ability to tune in to any point in time and space. That's a known fact. That's proven. It's like the remote viewing phenomena thing is big. That's $1 billion business. You know, I know a friend of ours would do remote viewing, and she was on a board of directors of a big Fortune 500 company, and they gave her a $2 million bonus one year just for saving them money for bad mistakes. So that this remote viewing thing isn't going away. And
it's getting bigger. And I think it's all because we're learning how to develop the pineal gland, because I think that's a receptor. That's that's the core of that's your third eye you talked about earlier. And it's if we can learn to develop that and learn how to decalcify it and so we can receive, and you do that through meditation, in my opinion, you can learn to meditate and just let this information come in, and get your heart and your brain in coherence with each other so they're working on the same track.
yeah.
A lot of times you'll have a gut feeling that says go right, and your brain, your analytical brain will say go left. Well, it's your gut that you got to listen to, but you got to get those two in coherence. You balance that with your chakras. You balance with meditation, opening your pineal gland, and just let it all balance out and get in the rhythm. And I think that's what's going to raise your personal vibrational frequency.
I think that's another thing that Sasquatch are doing with a lot of people is they're reintroducing us to these gifts that we have that we've kind of forgotten about, like psychic abilities,
they're not supposed to interfere.
All that kind of stuff.
I've heard people say, why don't they come down and tell us to do this, do that, do all the, they're not supposed to interfere with our karma. We have everything in this. We're supposed to respond to issues and with our own choices, we have to make those choices.
Yeah.
We can't, if you had these master beings that come and say, well, go right instead of left, well, you're not making any decisions for yourself anymore.
Yeah. They can guide us, but we're here like in a school
learn to listen.
Learn our lessons or whatever. Like, how do you learn your lessons if somebody's giving you the lessons, right?
You learn to listen.
You have to go through them yourself. I think I do agree that there are different types of Sasquatch, some more evolved than the others, but there is one basic truth that I think that may not work in every case, but I think that because they are people and they want to be respected like anybody else, I think that the way that you approach them will have different results. Like some of these people who are saying that they're trying to kill them or whatever, which isn't true because they'd be dead, but like think that they're big bad monsters and nothing but fear and all this stuff. If they went out there with a different attitude and said, hey, how you doing? I'd like to introduce myself to you, and then do it from the heart, pure, sincere, no agenda, no, all this stuff, they would have much different interaction with them.
Probably so. Like I say, your fear is your enemy. So if you're going out there with a gun trying to shoot them, it means number one, you're probably afraid of them. No reason to be afraid of them. However, know who you are as a human being and the power that you have within you to call things out and to well, light beings. You hit on Frank earlier. We are light beings.
Yes.
We're made in the image of the very special alien.
They call me Frank Oliver. That's not my real name, you know. That's an alias for the show.
Wait a minute.
Well,
We're in hiding here because we talk. We don't.
Brian, you gotta have everybody in the whole. Everybody says, "Hey, Frank. Hey, Mr. Beans."
Don't you remember when I told you we started this show about 3 years ago, Ron? And I said, watch out because everyone's going to start calling you Frank Oliver Beans, and it's right.
I think it's a cool name.
Yeah.
Or so I call you Mr.
FOB,
Pork.
FOB, right? FOB. He's a FOB. That's full of beans.
Yeah.
That's what it is. FOB, Frank Oliver Beans.
These beings have so many ways to communicate. Like they're spoken words. I mean, well, obviously you've heard them. You're the grandfather of that, or the godfather. I mean, the Sierra.
I don't know what they were saying,
like,
but they were spoken words. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Sierra sounds are like groundbreaking. They're like, one of the most important things ever like discovered in the Sasquatch world. But they have the spoken language, they have the telepathic language. It's all energy and whatever. And of course, from my experience, they have the written language too. So, the glyphs and whatever. So they have many different ways to communicate. And they're very intuitive too. They will connect with you and teach you in a way they know your best way of learning. If you're a hands-on, you got to see stuff and that kind of thing. That's how they will teach you and communicate with you. So that they work according to your strengths and whatever too, is my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of frustrated researchers out there. The guys who put cameras on the trees and go out and knock on, those guys are frustrated. I feel sorry for them. I mean, they're almost to the point of crying. They get on the they get on their groups and they start crying. Just proof. They start chanting proof. Give us proof. It's been like 40 years and nothing. You know what I mean? They just got the same tracks, the same blurry photos. Just the same stuff, same scat. The DNA study came and went. So this whole thing about proof is, to me, it's just a fool's game. As soon as you start talking about proof, you're going to have arguments. It always is the same way. I don't think it's about proof at all. I think it's about the living experience that you have, about opening your mind and feeling comfortable with these things being in your world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. I like it.
Absolutely.
I feel sorry for them, to tell you the truth. If you're stuck 40 years putting camera traps out, trying to catch a Sasquatch, and you never got one, no wonder those people just must have pent up anxiety or something, because it never happens.
Well, I learned a long time ago, if the track you're on or the pace you're on, the road you're on isn't getting you where you want to go, you change roads.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're like a ship out in the ocean with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I love this conversation. It's one of the best conversations we ever had, because it's about the more. Like I said, you can't be satisfied with the actual scientific research that's been supposedly carried on, other than Melba Ketchum. You can't be satisfied with it, because there's more to that. There's more to who we are, and as we see, like we talked about, the near-death experience, the out-of-body experience, the shamanic journeys, and all these things that expands our consciousness, our intuitive, our level of experience, or receptive centers, and then you can go back and look at how much of this applies to the Sasquatch people, or you look at the Sasquatch people and say, well, if they're doing that, where can I see human beings who are doing that? So and that just expands us. To me, it's like that more. You want to go outside the box, like Brian says, and find the more. There's more going on here, and it led you to the quantum physics, which is the whole story of more. There's more going on here than what you can knock on wood about.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to get your head around. I mean, you can't totally conceive it, but you have to understand it's unpredictable. It's not like it's not like a classical science, which is predictable and measurable. When I was just a boy, I look up at the stars. I say, how far is it to the end of the universe? What's on the other side there? Well, how can you answer that? There couldn't be anything there, right? How do you get your head around that? Well, I grew up and got with these scientists, and you know who they are, some of them. And I said, what do you think about quantum physics being involved in this? I did this years ago when I was thinking about the book. And they said, oh, don't even talk to us about that. Well, you know, they can't get out of their parameters. They're disciplined. And I understand, you know, I forgot now the scientist's name from Washington State that died, Robert Krantz.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took a beating for even tackling the subject of thinking it might be a remnant of the Gigantopithecus. Well, that's where most scientists want to go, because there's actual hard evidence showing that there was something like that around a long time ago. Well, they think maybe it didn't go extinct, maybe it just somehow got over here through the quote unquote land bridge or something like that. Well, you know, they all try to pin it down to what they've been with the disciplines they've been taught with. And that's too bad, because they got to get out of that box. Like Max Planck, who was the founder of quantum physics in late 1800s, early 1900s, he won the Nobel Prize in 1980 for quantum physics, by the way. He said, science will progress one death at a time, one funeral at a time. In other words, it takes a fresh mind. It takes somebody with a fresh thinking to get into this and start learning that not everything is in that box. They got to get out of that box.
Yeah.
And that's just, that's how I think. And,
Absolutely.
Until they do, they're never going to advance anything.
We're on the same page in so many ways, Ron.
And well, you mentioned Edgar Mitchell earlier. You know, I'm a fan of his. He said it takes classical and quantum sciences together to have clear perception.
I think that's right on the money.
Well, there you are. You know, if you don't put them together, because you got to live with classical science, because that's where we're at in this third density. So, but quantum science rides on its back. I mean, it's everything else that can't be answered by classical science. It's in quantum science. And so bridging the gap is what I try to do with my presentations, with everything. I try to bridge the gap between the sciences. And what Tesla said, well, one man calls God, another man calls quantum physics. Well, what does that tell you? To me, spirituality and quantum physics are the same. As you get into spirituality, you're into quantum physics. You're in the woo-woo, let's put it that way. And I don't mind being called a woo-woo. In fact, I think it's a compliment now, because Tesla was there, Einstein was there. You know, they're all in the woo-woo, if you believe in.
All those guys were getting information from the sphere. They were like, oh, this just came to me. You know, they didn't figure that stuff out. It was just handed to them in their brain. I was like,
every one of these guys, all their breakthroughs, all the stuff that they learned and shared or whatever was all learned outside of that box. You know, they had to step outside and embrace something new or whatever and consider it. Otherwise, they would have never come up with. That's what all great breakthroughs are about.
Somebody somewhere, there's PhDs now that talk to me privately that I know are getting into the other aspects of this, like we've been talking about, but they're afraid to jump out because of their academic careers.
Right.
You know, they're going to take a beating, or they're going to lose with their tenure. They're going to lose with their funding. They're going to lose. All that stuff is going to, and that's what they work so hard for. You know, they're going to spend another 20 years just trying to pay off their student debt. They're going to take a chance on losing their status in the academic field.
I can talk to that from a friend or whatever, but for myself, I don't have anything to lose, so I just tell it as it is.
Yeah, that's what I do.
you know what I mean. I mean, I don't care.
Well, I'm 80 years old. You know, I've been around.
Yeah, I don't care who believes.
I don't care what people think. I don't care. I mean, I care what they think, but I'm not here to tell them anything other than what I believe and what I think. And
here's how I look at it.
Believe it or not, it is what it is. I tell a story, and it happened. It happened to all of us up there, and it's just a matter of what it means and where it goes and where it's taken us as a human species.
Well, thank God for people like you that actually do that. Because I think that if you represent and are speaking on the Sasquatch and whatever, if you water it down, what the heck are you doing, man? What like, like tell the truth or don't tell the truth. Don't be say, well, I don't know if they're gonna accept this, so I can't say this. That's yes, man. I mean, like why tell half a story?
It is what it is.
Yeah, but I will say, we were talking about this one investigator that I got to know a little bit, and he was actually a good friend of Randy Brisson's, Dr. John Bindernagel, who passed away, I guess, a couple of years ago. But he was open to what Randy and I were telling him about the woo and stuff like that. But he said, "Listen, guys," and this speaks to exactly what you're saying, Ron. He said, "Listen, guys, I can't," and he was like a scientist and whatever kind of thing. I can't even get people to take the tracks and the hard, solid, concrete evidence seriously. So even though I consider that, I can't talk about it because I can't even get my foot in the door as far as even considering that there's something walking and leaving tracks in the woods.
Yeah, I knew John. We went to Russia together in Siberia, and I roomed with him. I like John a lot. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
very open-minded, and I've talked to him personally, and he can't get there. The same reason other academics can't get there either. The same reason my buddies who won't talk about it today, because I asked Bill McDowell, he's my close buddy, him and I packed supplies into the Sierra camp, and I said, "Bill, you ever want to just go to one of these meets and talk to people?" He said, "Nope." He says, "I don't talk about it anymore." He says, "It's hard enough to get people." Plus, he's very heavy in the church, and the hardest people to convince of this is church people.
They're the only ones who call.
They've got their
they call them demons.
They've been brainwashed.
What do you mean
they get a big box going on.
Oh boy. Anyway, he says it's hard enough to get people to believe in a Bigfoot, much less all the crazy stuff that went on with us up there too. So they don't talk about it. They just kind of leave me out there in the wind to do it, which I don't care. I enjoy it, and it's what I think my passion. It's what I'm supposed to be doing in this life, and it's what I do.
Do they enjoy you talking about it, or most of them generally?
What's that?
Do these guys, your friends who don't want to talk about it, do they support you in talking about it, and do they support you?
Well, Bill does. Bill's the only one I talk to. We're on the same page. We both experience all this crazy stuff, and he doesn't get into my problem is a religious thing, because I was raised religious. He and I are both board members of a mega church at one time. I'm not religious any longer, but I'm very spiritual, like we all are. Like it or not, we're all spiritual beings, and our energy is going to pass on to some other form someday. So I kind of get down on some of these religious people because they tend to make you want to jump through their hoop to get to quote unquote heaven, wherever that is. But I'm not saying they're wrong or bad. They're all good people, heartfelt people, but they don't see it the way I do. I see religion as being a stumbling block. I've tried to talk to church people years ago about this Bigfoot stuff, and boy, they're out there crossing their arms like, that's the devil worship or something like that, bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what are we controlled by? Fear, right? Fear is a big controller, right?
If you let it be.
Yes. Okay. Yes, exactly. Of course. But what is one of the main
fear of going to hell?
And I'm not criticizing any religions, but I do think that if you can't get outside of the box of your beliefs, then that's not good. But I mean, what is the big thing in the Bible? Behave, or you're going to hell. Is that not? Fear?
And is that
not control and fear?
You got whoever's in charge of the populace at the time is going to control the narrative. So if you got way back in biblical days, if you wanted King Constantine, he wanted to control the narrative, so he got the factions together, and that's where you get the Nicene Creed. And that was in 326, I think it was. But they control what they want people to believe and what they want them to hear, and they're going to control the narrative as it is today. If you want to listen to the narrative on the news, all you got to do is hear it 3 times. You're going to believe it. don't listen to it. But whoever's in control of the government is going to control the narrative, just like in Roswell, 1947. You know, it was a weather balloon until recently. And it just goes on and on. So just understand that that's what's happening all over the world. It's like we don't really know what's going on in Russia and Ukraine right now. We don't really know the facts of everything going on. We just, somebody else is controlling the narrative that we get to hear. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I just don't know. And that's why I take it with, well, I don't want to say a grain of salt. Yeah. People are dying. There's a lot of people getting murdered over there and killed, and that's too bad. It's just wrong. It's what we got to change in this earth. We got to change this whole vibrational frequency of the earth has to change and stop killing and stop brutalizing people. And that's what's going on with our governments. A lot of anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm rattling on.
I haven't watched the news for probably 30 years. I did watch it one time when I was getting my my truck repaired. I was sitting in the waiting room and the news was on, and I was all of a sudden I thought, holy crap, I'm starting to believe this shit. If you watch it, I can see why people would believe it, but I mean, the narrative is controlled, and I'm not political. I think politics is a broken system myself, and I think once we transcend, we won't have this kind of politics. So I'm not, and I'm going to piss people off with this, and I'm not going one way or the other. But you just look at your last election or whatever, and how one guy was just like vilified. And I'm not supporting one or the other, but I'm just saying that's the perfect thing about control. I mean, this guy caused cancer, for Pete's sakes. You know, he put Christ on the cross. I mean, he did everything bad he did. You know, and I mean, if that's not manipulation, and then you hear people today, they don't even know why, but they just hate this person or hate something because they're told to. And you ask them, why do you really hate them? They can't even answer. It's just all brainwashing, right. Manipulation.
Well, that's too bad, but I think we're ready for a reset. I think this whole Earth's got to reset.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, Ron, you were talking about quantum physics and all this kind of stuff. And one of the big lies about quantum physics is that it's hard to understand. Oh, it's all mystical. Oh, you can't wrap your head around it. Now, that's not true at all. There's two main principles that came out of the early experiments. One was entangled particles, and the other one was the collapse of the wave function by observation. Right? So as soon as you put the camera watching the little photon swing by, it collapses the wave function and it turns into a particle. But it happens in everybody's life all the time. Yep. And I think I talked about this before. It was if you have two babies jumping around in a crib at night, they won't go to sleep, right? The mother's in the living room. She hears this, right? So she starts walking down the halls and saying, babies, you're supposed to go to sleep, right? So by the time she gets into the room, the babies drop down, and wherever they are in the crib, you don't know where they are in the crib, but wherever they are in the crib, they collapse the wave function. So that what you have is entanglement. The mother's entangled with the kids. She knows what they're up to. And the kids knows that when the mom looks at them, you got to drop down and be still. That's quantum physics right there. It happens in everyday life. You see what I'm saying? It's not like it's this mystic woo-woo stuff that you got to use an electron microscope. It's as natural as boiling water. It happens all the time.
It does happen all the time. Every day of your life, it's happening. And
what was that thing?
The light frequency.
What was that thing you were talking?
Brian's struggling with this collapse of the wave function now. See.
What was that? What was that? You were talking about beings where you were, and I had that experience, but where you know something is going to happen a certain amount of time before it happens.
That's precognition. Yeah, the Heart Light Institute did a big study on this. It was a really simple study. They had people looking at a computer screen, and then they had a random generator machine. They would throw up these images onto a screen, and the images were like a happy baby riding your bicycle on a day in the park. But then they would throw in something like a hawk catching a pigeon or something, or they'd show a picture of a snake. So they would do this, right? And everything was timed, and they hook up these people to to the heart and the brain. So see which goes first. What they found out was when they put up the alarming pictures like a snake or a spider or something, that our body, our heart actually responds between 7/10 of 1 second up to 7 seconds before the image comes. Right. The heart knows what's going to happen, and that's an adaptation that human beings have to have. So, like while we're in this conversation, I'm talking, you're listening, you process all this, you already know what I'm going to say up to 7 seconds before I finish, and then you're ready to go with what you want to say. You see what I'm saying? So we're already sort of in this blurred time thing going on. That's common.
Yeah. Let me just, Ron, I'll tell you a quick experience that I had that actually speaks to that, like knowing before it happens. And on this particular day, Randy Brisson and I were having all kinds of experience. I'm not going to get into all, I'm just going to get into the point of it. But we were having like third eye stuff, sighting, energy, all that, rocks thrown on the path, hello, we're here kind of thing. All that stuff was going on. But anyway, at the end of the day, we're walking back, and this speaks exactly to what Beans is talking about. And so there's truth in it because I've actually experienced it. So we're walking under a tree, and all of a sudden, Randy and I were walking side by side. All of a sudden, we both looked up and put our hands over our head. Like we both did it in unison, exactly at the same time. We looked up, put our hands over our head like something was falling on us from the sky above, right? After we did that, about a second after that, we heard this mechanical cat sound. Okay. But the point is that we were walking along, everything going on as usual, no clues like consciously of anything happening, but we both reacted before it happened. So that speaks, that's a good example of that, right?
Well, like Mr. Beans said, okay, Mr. Beans, our heart is our guide. You're going to get that sense in your heart before your brain's going to catch it. And your brain's going to process, should I be afraid of this or not, but your heart will tell you the truth and what's going on. So just important to have those in coherence with each other. And just talk about telepathy, deja vus, all that stuff. We all have it in us. we all know everything inside of us. We have all that information. You can't bring it into your consciousness sometimes. Now, the masters of old was able to do that stuff. He did it because of what I mentioned earlier, opening up your pineal gland, getting yourself balanced, get your meditation going every day, and eat right so you can decalcify it. Do all the right things instead of the wrong things we do for our bodies all the time. And we're going to be better off as people, and we're going to stop hurting other people because we realize that that's what's going to make us better. That's what's going to make the whole earth better. We're all got to do this collectively. And we just start that out collectively. We're all going to make things better together.
Yeah. The thing I found interesting about Randy in my experience, though, too, and it's happened many times with us, is that we both experienced it. It was a collective. It was the two of us, right? Like, and yeah, fascinating stuff. The abilities they have. So, who is Ron Morehead now? Since you've had your
good question. How much have you changed? How much has your world
since you've had your experiences with Sasquatch people? How has Ron Morehead changed from?
Well, Ron Morehead, when he first had his Sasquatch experience, was 29 years old. I'm now 80 years old. So you got to ask me, what was I like before Sasquatch? I was
well, maybe not. But how have you changed? Yeah, that's too general. But how have you changed since your relationship with Sasquatch or whatever?
Well, I think it's been an evolutionary trip for me. I mean, I've been evolving and learning more, and I think that's what we're all here to do, is learn more and try to make it for the better. And that's where I'm at now, is trying to make things for the better, and realizing that, you got to have some patience with these little old ladies when the light turns green and they're not moving because they double their medication. You got to learn compassion and love and caring for other people. And once you stay on that foundation, you'll grow, and your vibrational frequency will get higher and higher. You'll be able to relate to people better. I just want something in my life to have counted, and I think this counts. This Bigfoot thing has brought me into what we really are as humans, and how important it is that we respond to things properly.
Absolutely.
And we have to get into the next level, because there's another level coming for all of us sooner or later.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Did you want to tell us a couple of your most like interesting experiences, like, meat and potato kind of sighting kind of things, or some of your observations? You've seen them a few times, obviously. You mentioned you saw one in camp, right?
Yeah, but I wondered now why we didn't see them more often. There's times when I would had a headset on inside the shelter, and you hear this bipedal walking right outside the shelter, and they had been around, so you knew they were there. Yet you're waiting for the light to break in the moonlight of the shelter from the logs, that we got lined up out there, and the light never broke. Yet you hear it walking out there, but you don't see it. We all wondered why we didn't see them more often, and I'm thinking now maybe they were in another density with our light. They were outside of our frequency. We just couldn't see. And can they disappear? They go out of our perception, and is that another dimension? I tend to think they are able to change their vibrational frequency through their vocal mechanism, which is expansive, really expansive. According to all the studies we've had done, their vocal mechanism can do things that we can't even get close to. And they can be within our frequency, they can be outside of our frequency. What gave them those attributes, I think, is probably an alien intervention into the primate's genome of some type. So they're not all the same. That's the bottom line for me. I don't think they are the same. The jury's still out on what they are, because nobody really knows. We're all trying to find out more and more, and that's what I'm still doing. Is every day I try to find out more.
Cindy Lord has a question. She says, "Where's Ron's favorite place to go and why?"
Sometimes the bathroom.
That works for me.
And more often at your age, right? By the way, you look amazing for 80. You don't look 80 years old, Ron.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Where do I go? I go so many places now. You mean outside the United States, or inside, or just in the mountains?
Anywhere.
Whatever's favorite for you.
Well, nowadays, huh? I haven't been in North Carolina long enough to know any favorite places back here. I know there's a lot of people back here into the Bigfoot phenomena. My favorite place in Washington was the Olympics. That's where I lived. And my favorite place in California was the Sierra Nevada mountains. That's where I had my horses, my ranch, and I'd love to get back in there. And just a lot of memories. I got my memories, so every time I want to go somewhere, I can just reach back into my memories and find one.
Yeah,
because that's what we have.
You've been to BC too, right?
Older, huh?
You've been to BC a few times.
Yeah, yeah. I've been up into I studied the Osman account one time. Albert Osman, his abduction. Went up there with Peter Byrne on my plane. I flew up in there with Al Berry and Peter and a filmer, and we tried to find the bowl that Albert Osman said he was captured in. And we had a couple helicopters on standby in Camel River, and flew around that whole area looking for the area where he may have been. Couldn't find it until the inlet. Anyway, I got back out, and we all kind of agreed that he probably wasn't in the inlet. He just thought he was. Because this happened in 1924.
Right.
And John Green didn't interview him until early 50s. I think he was just looked at a map and thought he was somewhere else, because I flew down low enough to where he said he was about 1,000 feet above. He could see the ships out there. Well, you couldn't see where we were. You couldn't see that. So I think we just was looking in the wrong spot. I slow flew for a whole day around those mountains trying to find that. I've been to Alaska quite a bit. Last year was fun.
Let me back up there. How were you trying to find it? Just by the description of what he said, where you went in?
Yeah. Well, we read the account in John Green's book. And yeah, we're going to drop in there and see if we can find some artifacts, some snuff cans or something like that
Yeah.
that he said
Well,
he used.
You know that's one of the most important accounts of Sasquatch ever, the Albert Osterman one. And if you read it, you can't. It's almost undeniable because he describes them in ways that they never even thought about in those days that are so accurate. I'm getting that confirmation again. That are so accurate today that there's no way he could have made that up. He said a bunch of stuff that is, that people who have experienced them know now that he couldn't have known unless he actually had the
There's a lot of inlets in there, as you know, probably.
Yeah.
A lot of places you can go thinking you're somewhere else. I've flown up into Alaska a lot, out through Canada, with my planes and over the years, and just a vast country up there. And there's a lot of sightings. I like to go around Bella Coola sometimes. There's a lot of reports up in that area, and all the way up into Alaska.
Yeah, my area, like Maple Ridge, Mission, Harrison Hot Spring, all along these mountains are just full of Sasquatch people.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, just got to give you a time update. We're already at 2 hours, and I don't want to stress you out because Brian will just keep asking questions and trying to milk the cow.
Well, how about we go on for another 15 or something? Because I still got a few questions actually. You okay for a little bit? 10, 15?
See, draw the line in the sand if you need to.
Yeah, you draw the line in the sand when you have to, but no, just let us know.
Look at his face. Look at his face. It's like, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this?
What am I going
But not even sand around here. How am I supposed to do
that? They can take so many different forms. Like I even think that they travel in orb form. I've actually experienced something like that. I'm not going to get into that. But I've actually also seen them one time. I've seen them in a bunch of different forms. But one of the most interesting is one time I was camping and I saw them walking beside me and they were like the predator form. They were almost kind of transparent with a shimmery, watery kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the things.
There's a lot of reports like that. Not a lot, but a few.
Oh, yeah?
Call it the predator effect. In fact, David Paulides, who did a filming on me up there in this air camp a few years back, he did a DVD, and about 15 minutes in that. With the section right after that is a lady who was tree hunting. She's seen this pixelated form going from one tree to another, human-like looking. At the same time, there was a bunch of students down at the playground down at the school seeing a UFO and watched it and all reported it. So that's a predator effect, they call it. And I've talked to people who have seen that like that. I think it's the vibrational frequency from the transitioning from the third dimension vibration into the fourth over time. And all that's going to contingent a little bit on temperature too. Before you get into the fifth, where you don't see that any longer at all. So I forgot now what your question was, but that's a vibrational frequency. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration.
I don't think I had a question. I was just saying I've seen them in like the predator form, and that I've seen them in many different forms, including orbs and
the orbs, the orb
kind of thing.
Yeah, the orb things. Johnson brothers had these orbs following them around above their heads up there one time. It's all during the Bigfoot stuff going on. So I think orbs are a form of energy, and a lot of people have said, not a lot, but again, some people have said they actually saw Bigfoot dematerialize and turn into just an orb. And now in 2016, when I was up at our camp, outside in a tent, because the shelter's down now, I seen this light go by us, and it was an elongated light, like a tube, just floating through the trees. And what do you do with something like that? You don't know what it's going to do. You don't know what it's for. In my opinion, it's a form of energy. All kinds of things can happen up there. And nothing surprises me anywhere, really.
No.
Once you get into physics, you realize it's unpredictable.
Yeah, but like I said, like you still have to have discernment, even with all our wild experiences. That it's easy to just like everything is this and everything is and you still got to have discernment. But I think so.
You know, Ron, I actually was shown by the Sasquatch people how to go invisible. They actually showed me how to do it.
Okay.
Could you do it right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Watch
Yeah,
this.
turn the TV off. There it is. Yeah, he did it.
No, you do it with your breath, and you breathe into your heart, and it's just sort of like you have to if you, I don't know if you ever hyperventilated, but you do the really deep, fast, what they call connected breathing, just breathing continuously, and then you can get your area of your heart to start to feel like it's charged or buzzing. And then if you this is for younger people. I'm 72, so it's like I'm not really going to be able to do it, but you just keep breathing, and you fill up your heart until your heart starts to glow, and then you can move that around. And then it's a matter of intent. It's a matter of actually seeing yourself go invisible or wanting to go invisible. So it's an increase in energy, an increase in because your breath is the air, when it interfaces with your body, increases your electrical potential, and that increases your energy. And that's how they do it. They did it to me one time, and I was on my bed. They were invisible, and after I'd been doing their heart light meditation for about a year or so, they came and showed me what happened. And it's like they had me breathe for really hard for, I guess, 5 or 7 minutes, and I started to panic because they were taking over my breathing. And when I panicked, I sat up. And when I sat up in bed, I looked and only had one leg. The other leg was gone. And it was just like that's as far as I could reach because of my, whatever it is. I'm not in the same kind of an energy frequency as they are. But that's how they do it. It's almost it's not like a trick, but it's nothing super cosmic about it. I'm sure any human being could do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing with orbs, I don't know if you would well, I'm pretty sure you're going to consider everything wrong. I mean, you're pretty open-minded, but I've actually, and I'll send the pictures to you. You'd be quite interested in them. I think you'd like them. I'll send them to you privately in email or whatever. But these beings are so omnipotent, some of them, that
Did you say beans? Did you say beans?
Well, him too. But they can bring
magnificent.
They can bring their consciousness in from different points of consciousness. I actually seen Sue and I experienced this, a bunch of orbs. They all came together. Every time I tell my stories, he leaves because he's heard them so many times. But they brought this being materialized. Well, all these orbs came out of nowhere. Like we were taking pictures, and black, a few orbs, a bunch of orbs. Then they all started forming into one being, and you could actually see a being and whatever. And the knowing and the lesson I got was, oh my God, he's bringing his coming together from all different points of consciousness. You know, like that's what they say that God can do. And I'm not saying that they're gods, but I mean, it speaks to their abilities, right?
Yeah, I think so. What is God? That's not a question.
Yeah, I'm going to send you those pictures, and you'll like them. Yeah, I mean, they're quite remarkable. And but you know, another thing I found is, you know, lately, like they're only interested with me personally, and I think with anybody who, well, it depends on, they work with everybody differently, but they're not interested in entertaining us. They're interested in raising our vibrations, like you said, and educating us as to who we truly are, universal light beings, and stuff. And so, you know, early on in my experiences, I was getting all kinds of wood knocks. They were talking, they were like whooping, they were in my face, they were doing this, that, and the other thing. And now that I'm in the program kind of thing, you know, so to speak, they don't have to do that stuff as much anymore, because they're just communicating with me energetically and stuff like that. So it's kind of evolved. So they're not in my face as much anymore as they used to be, which is which I kind of miss, but I also understand it because they're not here to entertain us, right?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. Like, so did you want to leave us with, I guess you want to get going.
Looks like Mr. Beans has.
What's that?
Beans has.
He's just having a cigarette.
Yeah, I guess so. I got a few things I need to do this afternoon. It's
Yep.
already.
Did you want to just give us a kind of a something to leave us with something?
Something more than I already have.
Well, yeah. Well, just
on my website, all the things we've talked about, my 2 books, Voices of Wilderness, it comes with a download of the sounds. If you've never heard the sounds, it's my chronicle. And as I talk about the context of the sound, you can hear the sound I'm talking about by hitting the download link. And then the second book is Quantum Bigfoot, and it gets into the enigmas we've been talking about, possible answers to a lot of things that are associated with these beings we call Bigfoot and Sasquatch. I have 2 CDs. They're both, one's narrated by Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I narrate the other one. It's my interaction. Both of them come with sounds embedded in them. So all this stuff is downloadable on my website, ronmorehead.com. That's MOREHEAD. And
awesome.
It's all available, either downloadable or you get the hard copy of the books through Amazon, through my website.
So Ron, we know each other. We're friends. We've met a few times, and you've always been like open to whatever, but you haven't always been as open to talking about some of the stuff as you seem to be recently. Why is that? You just feel like it needs to be said?
I usually say what I think people can handle, and I don't get off the truth. I stay with the truth. But if they're not ready for the answer, they're not. I mean, they're not. They gotta have a question before I can give an answer. Otherwise, you're not ready for the answer, in my opinion. I think I've always been out forthcoming with what I think when people ask me what I think, and I try to deliver it. And as I grow older too, I learn more, and I just try to do what I think.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
It's the right thing to do.
We appreciate you being so open, because that's if you're not going to be open, then what? Like I said, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, why are you even doing it? Like,
Right. Well, I'm
So-
on several podcasts like this almost every week. I'd say 3 this week already. And
So how long you been in North Carolina? Is it North Carolina?
Yeah.
How long you been there? About a month or 2?
No, we moved here in December.
Have you been out in any experiences out there? Or?
No, I've been busy traveling. I've done several conferences, and that's what I do a lot of that now, and podcasts, and really just here, living, being, existing, learning.
Yeah, but you obviously know about some of the, and I'm not going to keep you long. But you obviously know some of the experiences people have related to you about your area, your new area. Are they very similar to California and Washington and stuff?
I got to tell you, when I get in these conferences, at the end, I get inundated with people telling me stuff like this, and how what I said answers their questions. And it seems like more and more people are hooking into this. Actually, the last one I was at was just thousands of people, and you can't not. I mean, there's somebody always asking you something,
Yeah,
or telling you something, and you listen. And first thing you know, you got all these different reports. They got something in common, and you just try to put the dots together to get a picture. And that's what I keep doing on a daily basis is put another dot in my picture so you can get a better idea of what's going on. There's a few things I'm kind of sold on, and that's actually that there's more than one type of these things. The idea that the aliens have probably manipulated the DNA in different species on this planet. My theory is that they are acclimating their species to this planet. I just kind of continue. I've been involved in, not involved, I'm writing another book and trying to get a few more things out there while I'm still around. Still vertical.
Yeah, I like that saying too. Yeah, as long as you're not horizontal, you'll keep doing what you're doing, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's kind of like a calling. You can't really help it.
You can't help it. No.
No, I mean, I feel like I'm being guided with everything I'm doing.
And I get inundated with emails and people ask me questions all the time on this. I'll open my email when we get through, and I'll have several questions probably from people. And I like it. I try to respond to all of them as much as I can. And some of them are way out there, but then nothing's really way out there. Hello, Mr. Beans.
And like on this show,
I'm going to have to leave a little early because
no, we're going to leave in what, 5 minutes. Just I'm going to do the thing.
It's already 3:30.
Yeah, we're going to go. I just wanted to say that, like on this show, we talk. Don't worry, Beans. 5 minutes, you'll be in.
No, my son's coming home and it's his birthday today, so I want to say happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
That's right. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, little
Dear
Bean
Jason.
Sprout. Happy birthday to you, Bean Sprout.
Bean Sprout.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on today. Yeah.
No, I forgot my question.
Yeah, it was really good. You actually got a couple of people who said it was the best show they've ever seen. So that's pretty good. And we got 150 comments, which is really nice. A lot of shares. So thank you so much.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say, and then we'll do our sound or our sound off. I was going to say that on this show we don't hold anything back. We're kind of like you, we just tell it as it is, and to hell with what people think. But one thing I find that is when we're open and we're talking about this, it's amazing how many people have had the same kind of experience and whatever. And when we talk about it, it gives them credibility for them and whatever. And I mean, these are crazy, wild, far out things that you can't make up, and when you see that numerous people are experiencing the same thing, that's very, that speaks very, very loudly to me. So anyway, Ron, we love to, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for saving my sanity.
We really appreciate having you on. And if you ever want to come on again, maybe even on a panel or something, we'll invite you back because you're a wealth of information. We love you, and thanks so much. So on behalf of Port Cunningham and the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Beans, this has been the Pork and Bean Show. Ron, thank you so much. You're not only a friend, you're a wealth of information, and we appreciate you very much. So thank you.
Thank you. You guys take care.
Yeah.
Second time. Next time, I hope it's not 10 years.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
I love you so. Don't you know? I wanna be your play. All the buttons coming down. Take my phone. Hot and high. Hot and high. Hot and high. For the tummy, oh my, love a big old thing of pork and beef. Goody. Love it. In the tummy, love baby, love high, love ooh, love why. I love me some pork and beef. Don't you know you gotta need that feed. You got to have some pork and beef. Pork and beef. I better holla, yo, mashed potato. Oh, have it now, don't wait for later. By the time. Come get your health and come see. Come on back and high.